So welcome back to the Slide Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Aaron, and today we're joined by Coach Mama. How are you doing, Megan?
I'm doing really good. I'm glad to be here and excited to listen to our guest today and just what he has to offer to the game of baseball. And so just glad to be here. I appreciate y'all letting me be on.
Yeah. Well, for those of you that's never listened to an episode of us before, we're the Slide Podcast Network. So our goal is to really focus on youth baseball from an entertainment perspective, education, highlighting, kids that do amazing things out on the field. So today we're going to focus really on the coaching aspect of things. And our guest today is iCoachBaseball. So Chris Murphy out of Fort Worth, Texas. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, well, I know we've been going back and forth and trying to get schedules lined up because I know you're a busy man, and so we excited to have you here. So start us off a little bit. So I found you on social media, and of course, I think that's most everyone's gateway to connections now. But where did you start in baseball, and like where did things start for you?
Yeah, I just think I'm your normal baseball player path. I grew up in New Hampshire, and I just played baseball since I was like 4 or 5. Did the whole thing, going through Little League, which was great. I moved to my hometown when I was in second grade, so about 7 years old, and we had a really great group that just stuck together like through high school. So we had such a great group of best friends, and we really were fortunate with some really great coaches. So we had the fun aspect, but we were also really competitive.
Yeah.
And I played through high school. Well, we won our first middle school championship in 20 years, my eighth grade year, and then high school. We won our first high school state championship my senior year, and then
That's
in
awesome.
AAU
Awesome.
with my group of friends and best friends. We made it to eighth in the whole country for the AU tournament. So I've been lucky to be a part of really good teams and have a really good experience. And after high school, I went on to play club baseball at University of South Carolina and University of New Hampshire, where I also had some really great seasons, met some really good people.
That's cool. So today's youth baseball world is so insane because there's so many different avenues to play now. You've
Yeah.
got, the elite leagues, the perfect games out there, and then you've got your traditional rec ball leagues. What was youth baseball for you like, whether it was in New Hampshire or in Texas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm still trying to get a grasp of how the youth landscape has changed. It definitely has. For me, it was so grassroots in terms of the local leagues and whatnot, which I think was so healthy for the game. Each town had its own little league team. Towns would have their, own just town leagues of probably like 4 to 8 teams, and you battle it out, and then that was in the spring, and then in the summer you'd form your all-star team for
Yeah.
to represent the town for Little League, and then you'd play the neighboring towns in the state. And it was just so great. I think it really helped to build like a network of baseball, like the rivals that we play in the other towns. Me and those guys, just because we played each other so much, we ended up just being buddies and whatnot. So I think that was really cool. AU was the main like travel ball thing, at least in my area, but I think that was the main organization or league that people played in back in my day.
Right.
I don't know much about it now. Um, Again, I don't know much of how the youth landscape is. It confuses me
Oh,
every
it's
time I try to
crazy.
learn. But yeah, it was really good. I think we started that league probably around when we were 11 or 12, and then we went up until we were like 15 or so. So it was a good travel ball era for me.
Yeah. I know, so my childhood, I went from, you know, rec league and, there's so many people out there. We just all consider these rec leagues little league. And I have grown to understand, of course, the difference now in rec league and the official sanctioned little league events. That was crazy. And then because my entire life I just thought, hey, rec league, little league, and nope, that's not how it worked. But I went into pony league, and you don't see too many pony leagues anymore. There's some, at least in our area. And then I, Colt, and then I got into high school. But man, kids are going travel ball these days so early. It's a different experience. I mean, Megan, you've got a 6-year-old. So when's he going into? He's ready to start probably travel, isn't he?
He's been asked quite a few times to play. I'm not there yet. It's I have 4 kids, and so I will say that plays a factor. We have 4 kids, and so I don't want to sacrifice one kid's talent for 3 other children's lives, and so we really want to make sure that we can blend it well together. I've offered for him to be a pickup player. If maybe I don't have enough to make a game or a team this weekend, we might be able to work it out because we love the sport. But he's 6. And so no, right now, the way it looks, we have a daughter in between my 10-year-old and, we have a daughter in between the 10-year-old and the almost 7-year-old. And so by the time he transitions into middle school, 6th grade, my 6-year-old will be close to around 10 years old. And so I'm thinking that might be around the age where we start letting him play a little bit more competitively. I'm a firm believer.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell you, coach, like, you got to see this 6-year-old swing. Like, he could give me some lessons on how he swings the bat. So
he's got a pretty solid swing. Obviously, I'm his mama, so I have to say that. But it's I don't know if you know who Colby May is, but the ongoing saying is, like, don't let anybody touch a swing. And I'm like, Mama Bear will come out if somebody tries. So like that, it will get bad quick for sure.
That's actually how we met. Was Colby May hitting? He sent me a video clip of her 6-year-old swinging, and I'm like, who is this kid? And so we got connected that way. So, well, cool. So. All right, so now you spend most of your time, I would assume, I guess, in clinics and coaching right now?
Yeah, so typically my schedule is comprised of a lot of private lessons, mainly one-on-one. I do that for countless kids throughout the week. My clinics I typically try to, well, now I'm starting to do one local clinic, probably monthly, and I'm really trying to build out my travel clinic schedule. I've done one in Maine, which was awesome. It really gave me like the vibe of back home, or back when I was younger, back home, just like, just the local town league. I had 60 kids come to that clinic. I did 3 different sessions. It was really great turnout, really awesome to just help community at that volume. I've done that for Maine. I've gone to New Hampshire, my home state. I went to one in Colorado, which was a great experience in the Denver area. And then I've done several here in Texas. So I'm really trying to build that out. I've got a lot of interest in the LA area, California, Florida. So I'm really just trying to get those on the books.
That's awesome. So, and what age groups do you really like? Is your clinics and your camps? What's the age groups?
Yeah, I've had it like 7 to 13. But yeah, it's usually around that 8 to 12 range that's most popular. A lot of 8 to 9-year-olds. I think that's just the sweet spot where parents are really looking for good instruction to give a good foundation to those kids that are still learning the game a lot.
Yeah, well, so this is really the meat of our interview here, because I've watched a ton of your videos, and I feel like you have a really cool way of connecting with the kids and relating things to the kids. And we kind of talked a little bit about it before we started recording, but so our audience is, players, coaches, and parents of, youth baseball. And we're starting spring season right now. So everybody throughout the country is in the process of either learning how to coach for the first time, or they're on their 10th year of coaching. What would you
Yeah.
say, and what's your message to other coaches out there that's learning how to relate to kids? Like, how do you do
Mhm.
it? How did you figure out your style?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just kind of who I am. Like I think especially with kids, I think it comes out the most. I'm just an enthusiastic, like charismatic, and I love baseball, so that really carries over into that. Like my passion comes out when I talk about it, so that just goes hand in hand with the enthusiasm.
Right.
And I just there are two things I love. I love mentoring and working with kids. I love baseball, so I really feel blessed that I've kind of found my niche doing what I do. Um, it's just easy for me to be excited about talking the game, and I feel like I'm always taking. I feel like all my years of playing baseball is not wasted because I'm taking the same information, my experiences, and I'm passing that down to kids in a energetic way. I think coaching, like going to your question of tips for coaches, I think coaching is so much more communication delivery than it is actual instruction. I think, especially at the youth age, I think the biggest priority is having kids have a good association with the game. Like if
Right.
they dread going to practice, if they feel like they're just twiddling their thumbs in between reps, if they get 3 reps in a 15-minute period, which a lot of these practices I see are, that's just not going to help the kids learn to love baseball. So I really think it's about making it fun. It's about communicating clearly, and it's about making baseball as active as possible.
Right. Well, and I think that's
Right.
where a lot of coaches really struggle, especially learning. And because, if you're not used to public speaking, even talking in front of kids is not the most comfortable sometimes. So, and then you've got the parents that you're also kind of auditioning for. So, all the new coaches out there, just focus on the kids, have fun, and just make it entertaining. Like, don't let your kids sit out in the outfield, for 20 minutes waiting on a ball. Keep them active, keep them rotating around. So, because that's what I see so much is we start losing kids and they start building sandcastles out on the field, and just coaches have got to
Yeah,
keep them involved. But I think you said something though, like I feel like you got to build a connection with each individual because every one of those kids learns, listens in a completely different way. And I think the successful youth coaches have a way of connecting to each personality and each individual versus just the mass team. So
mm.
I don't know.
Well,
That's
I
my
think in like my private lessons, because it is one-on-one, that is so completely true. Like, kids I have kids that really love baseball, and it's easy for them to get engaged and whatnot. But I have others that are learning to love it, and have to come in with a little bit different of approach. Talking about teams, though, just talking about what you were saying about how public speaking in general can be tough. Um, I see a lot of dads who and moms who, you know, first off, like hats off to them for volunteering their time. Most of the time, they're volunteers, so they should never be like bad words or bad things shouldn't be said about them because they're doing something that they don't have to do. First off,
hmm
but a flaw that I see in the communication style is they're not catering it to the audience, which is the kids.
right.
They're talking almost like in corporate speech and whatnot, but kids aren't like that. I think it has so much to do with tone. Like I understand the sentiment that coaches are trying to talk to them like they're young men, but these 8-year-olds aren't young men. They're kids. So they
Yeah.
need to be spoke to in that way. And I think you have to cater your tone. You have to cater the words you use. You have to not go for fake head nods, but go for engagement.
Right.
And I think
Absolutely.
just getting into that, really leaning into the fact that these are kids and that you have to adapt the way you're talking to get them engaged is so important.
I mean, like even because if you start speaking, because I've worked in the corporate world, and if I try to talk to those kids the way I give a conference call, I've already lost them before I've even started. So, Like, I mean, and sometimes you just got to have some fart jokes ready. And sometimes you got to have some silly stuff loaded up because that, I'm sorry, Megan, that's what sometimes you just got to do. You just got to have some of those, load up some of
I
those
gotcha.
good fart
Gotcha.
jokes and stuff. And like, that's where you, like, because the kid could be zoned out, but then you say something that clicks, whether it's Minecraft, the word, or something, and now you got them locked in. So,
Yeah, that's such a good
Well,
point.
I don't want to I want to quote this, but I don't know who I'm quoting, and so maybe I could go back and look later.
it's
So
okay.
I'm quoting somebody when I say this, but I know from a mom standpoint, I would say my dad had 4 girls, and I was the boy he never had. I was raised on a field, so I was raised tough and raised hard, and I love every bit of it. But I'm still a mama, and so I still got that nurturing, tender, for my kids. And so when I think about somebody coaching my kid, the quote is that I think about is people will not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so to
Yeah.
me, I think it's really important like a parent buying into you as a coach, or parents buying into you as a coach. It's that you care about their kid. You actually care about their individual success, whether it's baseball or life. And so something that I think really and truthfully, that if kids care that you care, right? Like kids care that you ask about their day, or what was awesome about their day, or what was funny, or what was going on, because once you start connecting with them, it's that belong before you believe, so they want to feel like they belong to something, an
Right.
idea or a group, before they believe in what you're doing. And so as a parent, it's just whenever I hear a coach who is believing in my kid, right, and who is believing that they are going to do good today, and they're going to parents are going to buy in. And I'm a huge on the family unit, because it is a family thing, like he said, like it's a whole family dynamic of pouring into your kid whenever they're
Mm,
playing the sport, and it's giving up time and money and effort. And most parents don't complain because they love their child, so when they see somebody else loving their kid, they're in, what I mean?
yeah.
And so I just think that relationship that you're building with them as a coach, and the family relationship, and then ultimately that kid's relationship, once you see that the family member sees you care, you got them, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they're going to
Well,
support you.
I see so many coaches these days, like they know more about the parents, like because they hang out with the parents and but they don't get to
Right.
know the individual, the kid. And to me, like I'm not trying to hang out and I show up to that
That's right.
field for those kids. And like I want to hear what the last thing that they did on Minecraft, even though I really don't care. But I've tried to find a way to connect with those kids. So, Murphy, I want to your specialty, you do a couple different things that you offer, and you offer some infield, like instruction, training, fundamental courses, right? So, what advice would you say for it? Because 8-year-olds is really when you start. I mean, 6, you're getting into some fielding. 8, it starts to really come together. How do you help create like a training program, practices that really help kids learn how to play the infield?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that um, like dads always think, or coaches, whoever is running the team or working with their kid is always thinking that, the only way to work ground balls is to just put them at shortstop and grab the bat at home plate and hit them ground balls. But I think that takes so much more time. And it's kind of like to learn hitting, I think you got to hit off the tee first because that's where your swing is formed. And the way that I relate that to infield is that I think we need to get away, at least for the younger kids. And this even happens at the high levels, like all the time, like just grabbing a bucket, kneeling 10 feet away from the player and just feeding them reps underhand rolled, like time after time. You're going to get literally like 5 times more reps, and you're going to, the ground ball is rolling, but we're not so much worried about the hops. We'll learn about the hops and how to read ground balls later. I think rolling the ground balls and whatnot is just a way for the players to learn their footwork, learn the proper movements, and just get their body in the right position. But when you're just saying, all right, go to shortstop and hit it, and then coaching them on the fly, saying, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, it's like the kid's trying to learn so many different things at once that they haven't learned how to read the speed of a grounder. They haven't learned how to read different hops, and they don't know how their body's moving yet. So like,
Right.
I think you gotta take things in bite-sized pieces. First off, teaching the movements. So, that's teaching the proper infield position, the proper fielding position, uh, showing the last two steps before you field, rock stepping, momentum, how you present your hands to receive the ground ball. Like that stuff alone is like difficult. And that just takes like, attention for 10 minutes to explain to the kid how it works. They can get that down with some rolled ground balls right in front of them. And then that would make, when the coach does uh, hit the ball to them playing the position, they're understanding how to do that, and it makes them be able to learn how to read the hops and the speed of the ball way more attainable because they already feel like they got the movement more down.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have to associate this to football. It's like learning a playbook. If you get out on the field and you're trying to practice and you're learning the playbook, like everything is going so fast. But when you learn the playbook, then things slow down. Similar to in baseball, when kids feel comfortable in receiving the ball, getting their feet work right throwing angle, like all of that fun stuff, then now they're just figuring out where the ball's going and now they got to track it. So I don't see a lot of youth coaches that really focus on footwork, receiving the ball, because in the younger ages, you see the alligator, of course. So you're seeing, top hand on the ball, but are we top hand and pulling the ball in? Are we receiving it in? Or, I mean, that's what I want to do is I just want to create and develop resources so that parents that are learning the game, it's like doing math homework. I couldn't tell you how to do most of these math equations now, but I got to help them. Even if you didn't play as a parent baseball, you can still help those kids get better. And even going like what you said earlier, and sorry, I can get on these tangents and I apologize, but hitting off of a tee, like most people don't understand how important that is at every single age. And because I was like, because kids get bored, right? And because kids get bored, we say we're going to get away from it. But
sometimes it's not even the boredness. It's the fact that like kids think that they're T-ballers if they're hitting off of a tee.
That's a big one.
And you have to tell them like the pros are hitting off of tees. Like my kids aren't allowed to hit live pitch until they hit off the tee, and they have to take 50 both ways before they even get a live pitch. If you hit left, you're going to hit right, and you're going to get the feel of your body movement before I give you any normal pitches. That's probably really strict, but you're not above hitting the tee. You're never above going back to the basics, and the best go to the basics. And so getting that mindset of this, I'm going to say the word daddy ball. Don't be mad at me, but this mentality of like, I've got to get my kid off the tee as soon as I can and get them into kid pitch and then coach pitch and, all this stuff. And it's like, hit off the tee every day. And it's a good thing, do fundamental work every day. Muscle memory is huge. And, I hear Coach Murphy talking, and one of the things that I wanted to bring to our small town in Georgia, and so get to working on it, Coach, whenever I get to, we get off the call, right? Just teasing. But is a coach's clinic, where these guys who are signing up for these rec leagues, right? Or because I'm really big on rec ball, and I think my heart is really big in rec ball for the reason that not everybody can afford travel ball, and not every parent can afford the time that it's going to take to pour into travel ball. And that rec league is so valuable to your entire community, for the high school and the middle school teams. And you see some of your greatest athletes in rec ball, and they don't get to go and do all these extra reps. So make your rec team just as important and just as big as ever. And bring in, at these coaches say, hey, I want to sign up to be a coach. We're going to host a coaching clinic prior to you coaching. And I want these kids to be doing a month of fundamentals before they go out and start playing ball. Right. And so you just don't have, to my knowledge, you don't have a group of coaches like yourself who say, hey, we're going to host a coaches clinic. And so these leagues who are going to be coaching these kids and supporting these kids, we're going to come in and show some fundamental work, right, that you need to be doing, that is going to be advantageous for your rec program and your travel ball program and your middle and high school program. And so I wish those resources were out there, because, you know, like you're talking about your fundamentals and just knowing that stuff, like your knowledge is so valuable to so many people that it needs to be replicated in these smaller programs that, you know, these kids who aren't going to get to see travel ball coaches or go pay for these camps at these young ages to learn these drills, they need it too. And so I would just love to see that being spoken over and into existence somehow, right, for these local rec leagues, because coaches, rec ball can get daddy ballish, you know, and everybody,
that's where
knows,
it starts,
right?
really.
Everybody knows, right? But, you know, there is something important to understand, that when you make it to these leagues like you did, Coach Murphy, and you make it to, you know, where you're at in D1 and higher, D2, D3, JUCO, doesn't matter. When you make it there, you have something to say about what you've learned and taken in over these years, and it's valuable. And I'm not saying that people who didn't make it that far, information isn't valuable. Sometimes being a parent is valuable, right? And being willing to pour into your kid is the value. But listening to somebody else who knows more about it and taking it in and replicating it is important. Yeah. And so just, I wish that we had your knowledge and a group of people like you to go in and pour into these communities to say, hey, coach like this, do this, hit off the tee, you know, do
there you go,
things.
Murphy. There's your new program right there. We got
yeah, I'm actually really proud or happy that you said that, because that's, you know, I've been talking about the courses I'm creating, and when I've done these clinics, people have asked me, like, is there any chance we could actually do like a clinic just for the parents and coaches, like, so they know what they're getting themselves into, which is great, because, you know, even if these parents have played baseball in the past, you know, they shouldn't be expected to be experts if it's not something that they've done. So, yeah, I've always said my mission for coaching is to help as many baseball players and softball players improve as possible. And I think if I'm able to influence coaches who are then teaching their own branches of kids, I think that's going to be a great way to do so. So that's definitely on the books, and I hope to have that out this year, actually.
So you also do swing analysis, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So how does that work? So like for the average person, for myself, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked. I think one of the most underutilized and free and also most accessible thing available is the use of video. I mean, you see that with MLB all the time, like just the use of video, and, you know, actually a little bit controversial how they use it in games and stuff. But there's something to be said about visual learning. Like, so many kids, like especially at the youth level, like these, not the coach's fault all the time, just because, you know, they shouldn't have to be expert in coaching if they're volunteers, but a lot of them just aren't speaking the kids' language. And even if they are, some kids aren't verbal learners. I think this may be a generalization, not completely true, but I think that most kids learn easier with visuals. So coaches can say, like, dude, you're dipping your back shoulder or something. The kid's like, what does that even mean?
What is that? What is that?
Yeah, exactly. You know, they just like kind of nod their head and agree and act like they know what the coach is talking about, and that's really it. But with swing analysis, basically, that's just a fancy word. I'm actually thinking about how I should phrase it better. I think swing feedback is maybe just a little bit better, just because I think the word analysis might confuse it a bit. But ultimately, what that is just parents send in a video of their kid taking a swing off the tee that they're just recording from across the player. And what I do is I take that video, I take a major league player. Sometimes I'll ask who their favorite player is, and I'll have like a side by side of their favorite player's swing and their swing, and I kind of use that as like the template. Like, see what your guy Mike Trout is doing here. Like this, he's doing this, which is allowing him like to be in the zone longer, for example. And like I use a platform called OnForm, which allows me to like annotate and voice over and like you'll let
Okay.
me circle certain things so kids can visually see and have something visually highlighted. So I'm talking over it as I'm scribbling on this thing, and I'm coaching in my same coaching tone, saying like, hey bro, like listen, your swing is good, but we gotta understand why this is holding us back type thing. And I just think kids seeing and hearing the combination of two different learning elements is so huge, because I think verbal one isn't as effective with younger kids, and but if you combine that with visual learning, it just allows it to be absorbed way more.
Yeah, and I think I'm just as guilty as anybody. Step forward, step towards the pitcher. All of the things that I was told throughout my life, and it never made sense
Yeah.
to me until I got older. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we just got to slow down and think about what we're trying to explain. But like
Yeah, it
that's
goes
been,
back to the speaking the kids' language,
yeah,
Like we might understand, but we have to always ask ourselves whenever we're opening our mouths to these kids if we're saying something that could be understood by them.
right.
Well, Coach Murphy, I have to ask, like, do you find yourself, um, which I've seen a plethora of coaches, and no doubt you have, quadruple what I've probably ever seen. So, do you find it valuable, to listen to the kid and how they communicate, and like listen to the words that register with them? It's kind of interesting to think about, like every kid has a learning style and like the words that work for them. And so something that I have heard Colby May, and you might do this too, is, before you swing, analyze, hey, what did you feel like you were doing? Like what did you feel like when you swing that bat that time? You swung. And so do you feel like getting on their level and listening to them and how they communicate is helpful in your coaching? Or do you feel like, you kind of having this one way of communicating and them learning your style? What do you feel?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think the answer is that I might subconsciously like think about how a player communicates, but I think I've really honed in on what my communication style is, and try to make that more universally understood by kids. So that's just like even stuff like older coaches will say like gentlemen or stuff like that. I say bro. I say bro, and
Yeah.
if they hit a ball really good, I'll say I'll be like you're a beast, like something like that. It
Yeah.
Yeah.
just carries different weight. It's different.
Yeah.
Um, it's absorbed differently. Like
Yeah.
Well,
it has a little
you're
bit
not the
more.
teacher. You're separating yourself from the title of the teacher to someone I want to
Right,
listen to now.
That's
right.
right.
And I'm glad you said that, because like I think what has made me kind of successful and what I found my niche to be, and what I've leaned into, is the fact that I'm 25. I think I even look a little bit younger, and kids, they think of me as like more of a kid, but like I'm obviously older, so um like I'll always lean into that, like, we're bros, but I'm teaching you, and I just kind of take command of the conversation if I feel like I need to have a little bit more,
Yeah.
direction or stuff. I think a lot of coaches, when they start, they're kind of timid to say stuff, but I think kids naturally like to be led. So I think it's just how you present it. Like if you come out, like if a kid's starting off slow in a practice, maybe be like, "Hey, bro, come on,
So
like, let's go,
Austin.
let's figure it out. Let's really like realize what we're doing right now." I'll kind of set the tone. It's just learning how to change your tones, reacting to what the kid is giving and effort level and whatnot, and going from there. But I typically do keep it light and more broish.
I, I'm 45 and I'm still bro and dude and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still trying to be younger, so I don't know how well I'm doing. I'm gonna tell you. You said something about looks a little bit ago. All right, who have you been told that you look like? Because
Uh,
I know that you've been told that you had to have, but I want you to tell me first.
I've got a Jonas brother.
That's it. That's it. Nick Jonas, dude. I swear I saw. I'm like, no wonder they're listening to this dude. They think they're talking to Nick Jonas here. I'm just kidding.
Some guy at the ABCA, for those that don't know, the American Baseball Coaches Association. I stopped one of the uh, bellboys, I guess, just to ask him where, some restaurant was within the complex. And he like covers his mouth. He's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Are you?" He's like, "Never mind, you're not him." I'm like, "Who are you gonna say?" He's like, "Nick Jonas." I'm like, "No, bro, but thank you."
You should be like, yeah, but you want me to sing you a song really quick? I can offer you some training.
I would have got exposed real quick.
Hey, so before we finish up, man, I know you've got a lot of experience in the game, and there's some hot topics going on right now. So, what do you think about all these changes to the Major League Baseball pitching clock, all this fun stuff? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's meeting a lot of resistance. One from like baseball purists, but what I think to be, and I'm talking about the pitch clock mainly. People
Hmm.
forget that OG baseball is this pace. Like games back in 1930 would take 2 hours. There was no commercials, and I think just as time has gone on, people just it's the clock is ticked just a little bit more. People got a little bit more comfortable taking their time.
Yep.
I don't think that the game should always be catered to how it is as a TV product, but it's not even about the TV product. We want the game of baseball to grow and to be more enjoyed. And honestly, it's an unfortunate fact that when I say I love baseball to someone and they say, yeah, I don't know, I just never got into baseball, I'll be like, no, I get it. Like, it's kind of boring. Like, it's more of an art thing, Like, it, you gotta you gotta know it to love it type thing. But I want it
Right.
to be loved by the average person. I think that's how it used to be back in the early 2000s. Um, but it's just gotten a little bit out of hand. So I think the appropriate measures are being taken. I think the pitch clock is good. Like there's some video that's going around right now, the 2016 NLCS, where they had a video of Jose Altuve hitting it inside the park home run,
Right.
and they counted how many times that clip could play before the next pitch was thrown, and it was seven.
Really?
So that's like seven 15-minute intervals, which comes out to like, it took almost like 3 minutes before pitches, between
Well,
pitches.
and it is. I mean, but you start watching the mental side of the game because now you got pitchers delaying because they're trying to get to the hitters, and yeah, the hitters doing
Right.
the same thing. But as a
Yeah.
spectator, we're not a part of that duel that's going on, so it's not entertaining to us. And
Right.
honestly, I think I don't know about ending the game. When
Right.
that's
I
hard
think
a little bit, but
Yeah,
but
I think any new thing like that that's such a change is going to have those growing pains. And I think
yep.
that's what it is now. And I think that's what spring training is for. I think that it's bound to have some controversy at some point when the games matter in the regular season. But I think those short term consequences are worth the long term benefits to the game. Like people are gonna want to go to games more. And I think the hat you're wearing right now, the Savannah Bananas, like I think it meets some resistance from like baseball purists,
Yeah, it
but
does. Yep.
you cannot like at the ABCA, their head coach was there and he was doing a speech and they
Tyler.
were highlighting,
Yeah.
yeah, Tyler, they were showing the highlights of the Bananas, like 150 straight sellouts. And now they're going on like a whole domestic nationwide tour. Like people are circling their calendars for it. Like so it doesn't need to go to that extreme, but it shows you that like people want to watch baseball if it's fun. So
Right. I mean, and there's still like so I grew up in the 80s and the early 90s when, I say this almost I feel like every show now, but Canseco was like my dude, and like there was the Barry
yeah,
Bonds of the world, Bobby Bonillas. I mean, there was so
yeah,
many of these like superstars, but the game was so fun to watch. And
Yeah.
now it's just like, man, it's like hurry up and wait. All right, now let's see how long it takes to get through this batter. And it's a
Yeah.
challenge. And I want to take my kid to more games. But as an 8-year-old, his attention span's not even as long as mine, and I know it would be a challenge for him. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I agree with what you said. Is any change with baseball will always be met with resistance because
Yeah.
the game is it's the oldest game out there. I think to some degree when it comes to professional sports,
Right.
and so there's always going to be people that disagree. But I think at the end result, if we can get more people to play and more people
Yeah.
like watchers become players when it comes to youth baseball, and
Right.
I think it helps. But I also
Well,
I think it creates another layer of the game inside of it because when you look at banana ball, with the pitcher controls, the batter essentially because he can pitch as fast as he wants. Like that's fun. Like now you get to see a whole new type of strategy come out in a new type of gameplay with inside the game. So
yeah, I think you'll see that. And I do want to mention like one thing as we're on the topic of, this is all relating to the growth and the future of the game. One thing that is bothering me, even though I don't know the landscape of all the different leagues and whatnot, there is 100% certainty that it's youth baseball is moving more competitive in a negative way, I think, too early. And what that is doing is suffocating the grassroots level, which means kids are going to be less motivated to stick with baseball longer because one, they're going to be priced out financially where it's not feasible for many families. But two, just like kids are specializing and going to travel ball so early. That's even as a 9-year-old, like I think it's inappropriate, honestly, for 8 and 9-year-olds to be traveling like 2 hours every weekend. Like I think that's too much. I think if the grassroots level of baseball, um, dies, you're gonna have less kids playing, and less kids playing equals lack of growth. So
yeah,
I don't know what the answers are to it, but I don't like the direction that it's going. And I'll
well,
search for answers, but I think it needs to change.
yeah, that's been something that we discuss very routinely on the show. That's probably every episode conversation as well. Is Ben Jenkins from Warstick said something to me last season that just stuck with me. And he had the same idea as you. Is rec league and these grassroots leagues, like that's what grows the love of the game because
Yeah,
by the time you hit travel ball, in most cases, you got a little bit of skill. So you're going to have a little bit more of a natural love for the game. But those kids that like you can still be a huge fan of the game and you may not be that great baseball player. But Ben said something to me. He said, when it's rec league, you learn how to be a teammate. It's about the team. It's about the family that's, built there on the baseball field, whether it's, all the players together, coaches, family, whoever. When you go travel ball, it becomes about your kid. And I
right.
never thought about it in that context, but that it made sense to me. And it's not that
Right.
travel ball is bad because I got plenty of friends that coach it. Megan, I was expecting you to shoot me down early on the 6-year-old really quick, but like travel balls are great, but not at such an early age because if the game gets too hard too early, like and too competitive, like that's where kids are gonna like say, I want to stay home and play Minecraft. So
Yeah. And Megan, you're on
Megan,
mute.
you're muted.
Hey, I'm unmuted. I'm here with you guys. um, I I definitely I probably will whatever interviews and show I'm on. I'll probably reiterate this as a mom. I have watched travel ball explode, and I'm probably judged harshly locally because when somebody wants to bring it up, I'm like, I'm not the one to talk to. Like and so my kid is playing what I like to call a sandlot little travel ball team where they played 6 rec games because of rain. There just wasn't, they were more scheduled. It just they didn't get to play as many games this past season. And so we got together through the summer and practiced once or twice a week. And I think that they played one day tournament a month for like 3 months. And so and they were all within 2 hours. And so they might have played, I think, at a cumulatively 10 games in the fall, right? So 16 games a year, you know, at 10 years old. That's not travel ball, right? That's just getting to play the game. Something that I see, and I see it in high schoolers. You see it starting in middle school, but you see it in high schoolers, is they get on this team where they haven't been playing rec ball with their team, their local schools, their local school kids, because they've been playing travel ball teams out of town, you know, and traveling, and those are their teammates, and they get on this high school team and they're not a unit. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to flow. They haven't grown up together in a rec league and known how this shortstop usually moves on the ball and this second baseman usually turns on the ball. And when you see kids grow up together in a league, whether football or baseball or basketball, you start communicating together. You become one. You become this unit where it's like, I know what you're going to do with that ball before you do it, and I'm already there, right? That's why you have team playing together. And
when they support and root for each other, and they want to see each other succeed versus is it just about my batting average because Game Changer says that? So
absolutely. And two, you know, you get to this game in high school, and it's like, I've gotten so many rings in my life, these Cracker Jack rings, the ones you get at pizza. I've got so many of those, right? They're great when they mean something. They're great when they're important. But when you have so many of them and you get to a high school level where high school ball matters in your team, and these kids who didn't get to play travel ball, it matters to them. It doesn't matter to you because you're going to go play with your travel ball team in so-and-so Georgia or so-and-so Texas, right? And y'all are going to win some championship this weekend. So it really doesn't matter what we do together on this high school field. And to me, I want my kid, I vividly remember going home from school and seeing it rain and crying because I wasn't going to get to play softball that day because the fields got wet, and I wasn't going to get to play rec ball. Travel ball didn't exist, and I wouldn't have gotten to play it if it did. And I remember like telling my dad, please call the rec director and tell him that I'll help pour out Quick Dry. I'll put Quick Dry out there. I'll help. Please let me put Quick Dry. I want to play. And you get spoiled when you play so much. You lose the hunger to even get to be on the field. When you get to, you know, you get jaded by it. And I want my kids to be sad when their game gets rained out. Like, dadgummit, not like, oh, well, you know, there's always another one tomorrow or next weekend. Like, I want them to want to be out there. And so I miss it. Yeah, I just miss the opportunity to get to play and appreciate the fact that they get to play. You know what I mean? And want to play and understand that, like, it's a privilege to get to do what you get to do and enjoy it, right? Like, enjoy what you get the opportunity to do. And so we are avoiding travel ball. I don't know if y'all know Parker Messick, just a solid, he played for FSU, got drafted this past year. I
don't watch anything that's FSU related. You know that.
Well, that's your problem. Well, in baseball for sure, go Noles. Well, we just live so close to him, and man, they're just fun to watch. But we loved watching Parker Messick, and what a kid. And he got to tell us just about his mom and how she didn't really promote travel ball until, you know, an older age and like late middle school. And even then it was just a very protective thing. And you had these dads walking around, and I remember this dad saying, you're going to let so-and-so play travel ball? And he was 6. And at the time I was like, no. And he was like, oh, he's going to be behind. You know, I mean, man, he's going to be way behind. Yeah. Well, he'll just have to be behind then because we're going to go fishing this weekend. Like, I mean.
Well, and that's it. Like, that's what the parents think. I mean, I see the moms and the dads both think if my kid plays in the spring and they don't play in the fall, they're going to get behind, you know. And then, you know, we start to see, and Coach, you said this earlier, kids start to try to specialize in baseball too early. It's like, play multiple sports, let your body, you know, become an athlete. So
huge helpful for us.
Well, I don't want to keep you much longer, Coach, but I appreciate very much your time, man. I'd love to have you come back. We'll talk through some more. I think it would be really cool for us to maybe even, you know, once you get some of your classes and those clinics set up, maybe come on and like definitely talk to the parents around how to approach certain things. For those out there that's listening, how can they get in touch with you? How can they find you?
Yeah, appreciate it. It's been great conversation, and I'm definitely looking forward to being back on. If anyone wants to reach me, I'm literally always in my DMs. If you DM me, I'll get back to you. So it's at iCoachBaseball. Easy enough. That's the best way to reach me.
Awesome. Well, I got one question left, and I always save this for the last one. So, this would be funny if it was Joe John or one of the Jonas brothers. But all right, if you're walking up to bat right now, what's going to be your walkout song?
I think I'd have to go with what my favorite old walk-up song was, and it was "Hips Don't Lie" by Shakira.
Okay. That's different.
It was electric.
That's awesome.
Oh man, that's great, Coach. That's great.
Well, very cool.
Hey, well, can I say something, Aaron?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I appreciate you, Coach, for what you do for the game of baseball, and I'm rooting for you, and can't wait to communicate. I mean, about whatever you're going to be doing for coaches clinics and things like that. And I appreciate you sacrificing your time for youth sports, and I can't wait for all the other information you put out there. And so I appreciate you and thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. My main thing is to help as many baseball players improve as possible. So whatever way I can do that, and you guys having this podcast is a great thing. So we align in that mission.
Here's what I agree completely with you, Megan. But when you turn on the TV today, you see all of this negativity, whether it's the news or whatever. There's always a scandal going on, and so you're led to believe the world is a bad place. And so that's where the show came from me, is like, I want to put some positivity out there because this generation is just is going to do well. But then now I've had the chance to meet people like yourself, all of these coaches throughout, people that want to help impact the youth baseball world, to change the dynamic. Like, hey, you know what? The world's going to be all right, because there are great people out there like yourself, like I think I am, Megan. Like there's people out there that have that same point of view. And so it's not, don't believe everything you see on TV, because there's some great people out there like Coach Murphy here. I coach baseball. So, hey, man, thank you very much. We'll stay in contact, man. Let me know what you got coming up with those clinics and stuff. We'll definitely have you back on the show. Megan, thank you very much for your time as well. And Megan, here we go. All right. So this is your part. This is your first time. So until next time, Megan, and you say we catch you on the slide.
I got it. I got you.
All right, here we go. Right. All right, Coach. We go through this. We got some new hosts on our show, so we're going through it with everyone. So, all right, listeners, until next time, Megan.
We'll catch you on the slide.